3,000 automobiles that workers left parked, left the keys in them, got on the airplane and left so that they wouldn't lose both their hide and the automobile. And as a result, Dubai City has done everything that this individual told me back 5 months ago, 6 months ago was going to happen. It has become a ghost town. You see, they have planned this thing worldwide in order to do what they wish to accomplish. Now let me tell you what's going to happen in America and point out what is happening right today. Now, folks, watch this. I hope you have pencil and paper and you're taking notes. This man said to me, this person who knows everything, 82 years of age, he knows everything the elite are doing. He said to me, after I'd been threatened, and I agreed to go along with what he said, and there's certain things I couldn't even say on Alex Jones' show today in order to keep the sanity of my household and my family and keep myself in keeping their word. He said to me, he said, Lindsey, he called me Chaplain. He said, America will see a financial collapse that will be so great that it will take years to come out of it. At that time, we didn't have the bank crisis. We didn't have the real estate crisis. We didn't have the big bailout packages we've got right now. He told it all to me ahead of time because they had it planned exactly as you've been hearing Alex Jones say on his program day after day after day, folks. I wish I could shout it into every one of his homes today. Believe everything you are hearing Alex Jones say. Even if you have trouble believing it, you believe it anyway, because he's telling it to you in advance. Okay, here it is, in America. He said America will see a financial collapse so big, great it'll take years to come out of it. I'm going to tell you what happened yesterday. The Dow Jones stock market down 297.80 points at the close. The president signed a bailout package because America is in such horrible condition, and the Dow closed at 7,550 on yesterday. You tell me we're not in trouble? Now, let's go to oil. Oil yesterday went down to a bottom of $33.80. Do you realize that the oil-producing countries of the world, now this is everybody from Venezuela to Nigeria to all of the Arab countries, even to Mexico, our neighbor, who is about bankrupt, and oil is their major staple, and, well, apart from drugs. And then, of course, the United States of America produces a certain amount of oil in Alaska, and Alaska is in big trouble financially now because of the tax shortfall. Do you realize that the ramifications of $33.80 oil yesterday literally brings the world into bankruptcy so that the elite can own every bank, can own the majority of the real estate, they'll own nearly every mom-and-pop business. And when I give you in a moment one other thing is taking place in Eastern and Central Europe, you are going to be devastated. And I'll give you this firsthand, but let me go on with America first. Oil, $33.80 yesterday per barrel. It was 147. They have lost 3/4, 75% of their income. Somebody loses it. When oil goes down that much, the seller doesn't get it. The buyer doesn't make it. The oil companies will eventually go into a problem. And, you know, I said 35 years ago in my book, and I know I'm going back 35 years now, an oil company official told me that eventually the oil companies would be nationalized, and it's written in my book, Energy Non-Crisis, and for 35 years I wondered how they'd do it, and I couldn't even see it for 35 years' time. I'm not even going into that today, Alex. That's another whole show within itself, because they're the biggest that nobody thought they could ever be taken over. You read it in my book, Energy Non-Crisis, for those of you who have it. So oil closed on yesterday at $34.97 a barrel. Now, let's go to what David Walker, the former Comptroller General of the United States of America, he controlled the currency for a long time. He's now retired. He said, America's unfunded liability, folks, please write this down. America's unfunded liability is $66 trillion. He went all across America trying to tell people what was going to happen because he foresaw what the elite were doing, and he dared to tell it. He said that includes the national debt, that includes Social Security, that includes Medicare and Medicaid, unfunded liability. Now, $66 trillion is more than the entire gross domestic product of the whole world. More than the whole world's gross domestic product. That means the output of the whole world does not equal our unfunded liability, because the world's GDP is only $65 trillion. Folks, this is so catastrophic and so big. The elite have planned this so well that they have it to the point that they can literally own and control the world. A dozen people. Can you comprehend a dozen people controlling the world?
Chaplain Williams, let me just interrupt to add some small caveats to back up what you're saying. And this is on record. The central banks of the world dominate Western nations. They set up fiat currencies. They buy up the majority of the world. They trick the Arabs and other oil producers to get into leveraged derivatives where they can make 10, 15% a year. Most of their money's invested in that. They're leveraged. Then the bankers implode the world real estate market. That's to hurt the average person, and then local communities to further implode us so they can buy us up. Imploding the oil is meant to shut down all the other nations that are based on that. And then out of this, the Financial Times of London, Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine all say that there will now be a new world order with one global bank that owns basically everything and gives everyone credit. And with that comes the control of the government through the private banks, giving you your paycheck, putting money on your national ID. They're now announcing this will be how they save us. So they destroy everything so they can force engineer society and put strings into everything we do. So that's how they have pumped up this massive bubble. This is how they're doing it. And then cities like Dubai that have been built with just like a palace, like Star Wars or something, so futuristic. All these other major cities that have been built up, all the construction, all the resources, the state governments go bankrupt because of the unfunded mandates. Everything goes bankrupt. The globalists come out with their new global monetary system, controlling all the currencies under one system, and they have total control. This is the economic setup. They set up globalism to get us all interdependent, to get us all into debt, to deindustrialize all the major free nations, to fully have control of us and have us institutionalized. Please continue.
Just this morning, I read over the majority of, it took about an hour, to read over the majority of the giveaways in the stimulus package that was signed on yesterday. I shuddered. The average American didn't have the slightest idea. Now, jot down two words for me. Number one is tax structure. Because of the price of crude oil going from $147 a barrel to $33.80 a barrel yesterday morning, at the gas pump, it went down from $4 to $5 a gallon to $1.50 a gallon. In some states, went down as low as $1.30 a gallon in one East Coast state. As a result of that, the federal government, the states, and others have lost 3/4, 75% or more of their tax base. Now, that doesn't show up for 2 to 3 months. Now, they come out with a stimulus package on yesterday. Listen to this. I was just reading over all of the money that will be given away in Denver. They're going to the college, the university in Denver. They're going to improve, for instance, a ramp coming off of the interstate. They're going to improve bridges. They're going to build this and build that. Do you realize that when I read the amount that they're giving for each of those things, that it was approximately only 40%? Now, mark this, folks. If they gave you, say, $10 million, and you were supposed to build a new ramp off of such and such of an interstate with this, and improve the parking lot in the college, do you realize that they only gave you approximately 60% of what it would take to do that? That's right. In the stimulus package, they have intentionally planned it, and it's all, not a single congressman read the stimulus package. And I can see why. Because now, how a state's going to be able to fund the additional 40% of all of these items that are listed in the stimulus package? The 60% that the federal government gave them is not going to do them a bit of good, because the additional 40% they have to fund themselves.
The feds have announced today how they're going to fund it. All cars, they're saying they're doing this through the states with mandates, are going to have satellite tracker box in them and tax you by the mile. Now, every time you bring this up, I get emails going, wait a minute, there's so much tax slapped onto something regardless of the overall, price of fuel. But then I read that overall gas receipts are down, and different states are different, though. Aren't they? Some states it is per gallon. Other states it is a percentage of how much you spend. Explain to people, because you were right, the gas receipts are down. Why are they down?
They're down because they have lost 75% of the amount of taxes that they'd get off of a gallon of gasoline. Let's say that, I'm just taking a round figure now. I don't know the exact amount. Let's take a gallon of gasoline, $4 a gallon, back before the price went down to $50 a barrel for crude oil. And let's say that state and federal governments receive somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/2 of that in the form of taxation, because it's a huge figure. Now, they have lost that. They're not getting it anymore, because the price of gasoline has gone down to $1.50 a gallon. So instead of getting, I'm just rounding it off because I don't know the figure. It's in my book, Energy Non-Crisis, by the way. Let's say that they were getting $2, now they're getting 75 cents. Do you realize how much taxes are lost on every gallon of gasoline that goes into a tank at a gas pump? Now, the tax structure base is going to literally be devastated because of this, plus people driving less now than they did before.
I was about to say, that's the main reason, is that people have less money to go on trips. Even though it's cheaper, they don't have the money to buy the gas, period.